Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Now, today we are diving into a transformative topic that touches every corner of our lives: emotional freedom. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to Allan Gallang, a passionate NLP practitioner and expert in emotional restoration. Together, Allan has mastered the art of helping people break free from the emotional pain and limiting beliefs that hold them back. From overcoming traumas to unlocking new levels of confidence and focus, Allan's work has transformed countless lives. Now, Allan's personal journey, his story is as inspiring as the tools they teach. Allan turned his life around after hitting rock bottom, and he's here to share his wisdom, practical techniques, and the mindset shifts that can help you transform your life. So, if you are ready to take control of your emotions, improve your relationships, and thrive in both your personal and professional life, stay tuned. You don't want to miss this conversation. So, Allan, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute pleasure having you with us today.
Sandra, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to share with you and your audience.
Lovely, lovely. So, Allan, would you like to share your personal journey and how NLP and emotional freedom became central to your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So to make a long story short, my journey started way back in my early 20s. I had gone through a really heavy negative experience in my life where I got hooked on drugs and alcohol at a young age. And by the time I was 24 years old, I tried to commit suicide, not realizing why I was going through that. It sent me through a path to try to figure out, why did I do that? Why am I looking at my life like it's just this horrible thing that I don't want to experience anymore? And I realized that if I was going to make a change of any type, the first thing I had to do was learn how to take better control over my mind. Now, during that time, I was lucky. A friend of mine had given me his home study course. It was not called NLP during that time. It was called something else that I didn't even know. I had no idea what I was getting, but he basically said, Allan, if you want to turn your life around, you've got to think right. You've got to find a better way to look at your problems in life. Because during that time, I just thought everything was horrible. And what I did during that time is I got the training. I stayed home. Santa, it was like I became a maniac on this training course. I would literally spend 8 hours a day. This is back in 2003, 2004, 8 hours a day writing, taking notes. I studied this thing back to back. And without any exaggeration, in 28 days, I became a guy that used to be the party guy, drinking a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs. And on that 28th day, I just said, forget it. My identity has shifted. I am not this person anymore. And I just started to turn my life around for the better. And the things that NLP has allowed me to accomplish, if you had asked me back in my 20s, was it possible for me? No way. But thanks to the training, thanks to helping, basically it helps me understand and helps anyone understand how to take control of the subconscious mind that's inside all of us. And the subconscious, it's kind of like artificial intelligence plugged into the back of our head. It's really that powerful, at least to our experience it is, because it can take beliefs and negative habits and things that we've been stuck with for years, and it can transform it within minutes, so much to the point that when you make the shift, oftentimes people tell us, hey, I can't do that. I can't smoke anymore. I'm not a smoker. I can't yell at my kids anymore. Like some of my clients have said that. I cannot yell at my kids anymore. I'm not that kind of guy. It's remarkable to see how much transformation happens when people use these tools. And that's how it's transformed me in my life. Plus now, of course, all the clients that I've been able to serve over the past 3 years.
Wow. Wow. That's really, really, a heck of a story, heck of a journey. Well,
Cute.
you stumbled across, NLP, which is now it's called as NLP, but at that time it was not, uh, you know, it was completely new to you. And you dedicated 8 hours every day in understanding and going through that entire concept. Why do you think it resonated with you? What was that, which helped you understand that, yes, this is something transformative and it can help me heal inside?
It's a really good question. The reason why it resonated with me so much is
Mhm.
because it helped me discover something about myself that I didn't even know existed until I took the training. You see, during that time when I was just partying and then trying to have a good time, but in a very reckless way, what I discovered was that my brain was actually trying to do something good for me. And what it was trying to do is it was trying to help me escape an emotional and mental pain or a series of pains from past traumatic experiences that I had had, which I had pushed down, I pushed away, I tried to forget about it. Now, the brain consciously can forget, but subconsciously, the back of our brain, it literally records every experience, everything we see, everything we hear from the moment we're born all the way until the day we die. It's just we can't always recall that information because we're not taught how, but it's there and it impacts our life whether we realize it or not. NLP helped me understand that my bad decisions were just trying to help me escape the pain. But now that I'm like aware of it during that time,
Mhm.
instead of just trying to avoid it, it also taught me additional tools on how to heal those parts of my life that kept resurfacing old emotional negative pain so much that I could close my eyes, revisit those memories, and instead of feeling anger or depression or sadness or guilt or whichever those negative feelings are, instead, it allows me to look at those old memories almost like watching a black and white TV. Like, there it is. I
Mhm.
see it. But do I feel all that negative pain that I used to? No, not at all. And so all that negative pain is gone, guess what? The behaviors change. The need to grab things that are addictive to us, it completely changes because the things that used to control us and hurt us, it doesn't hurt us and control us anymore.
Hmm. Lovely, lovely, Alan. Also, now moving on to the topic, what is emotional freedom? And then how does it impact our ability to thrive in both relationships and career as well?
Very good question. So emotional freedom is a term that we've coined here in our company, and it's the centerpiece of what makes everything else work very well, optimally well in our life. You see, I've had a chance to work on myself over 10 years. The first 10 years of being involved in NLP, it was just me. I'm just working on me. I want to make myself better. But that ran me until about 2015. 2015 to 2017, I studied on how to become a practitioner. And from 2017 to now, I've had a chance to serve at least about 100 to 120 people each year. And they've all told me, like, it's interesting. They all have generally the same kind of problems no matter if they're young or they're old or they're men or they're women, the surface level problems are all different. But when you strip down those surface level problems and you look at it at the core, 95% of people are acting in ways that they don't want to. But like, as in, some people yell at their kids, or they're late all the time, or they can't hold down a job, or they quit too quickly when starting a business, or they cannot get in shape. When you look at the reason why, at the core of all those problems and more, it all boils down to something or someone that made them disbelief in themselves when they were young, or had hurt them, either intentional or accidental, which causes them to go into is what we call a self-protection mode. And the brain's always looking for ways to protect us. It's just not always serving us, right?
Yep.
So once we discover that that was the problem, all we do is we go to the core of what happened in that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
We teach them how to use their subconscious to do something that we call an image and emotional reframe. So reframe just means looking at a problem from a different perspective, but so deeply in a way that it triggers new feelings inside the body, oftentimes positive. And what that does is, when a person is able to heal or let go of that part of their past, it breaks them free to be able to go after more of the things that they want. So for example, I had one lady that wanted to have a great relationship. She had just gone through a divorce, but she believed that all men were just horrible because she had a dad that was over controlling, and her husband at the time was extremely over controlling based on what she had said. Well, imagine going out there in the world, Santa, and trying to date people. But if your belief system is these men are all controlling, they're all going to try to hurt me, they're all going to take advantage of me. Well, how can a person go and experience a great relationship if that's their belief system?
True.
So what I did is I met her, I found out where the core of that problem was, and I got her to see that time in her life as something different. Not that I did it. I just gave her the tools to look at it in a way that empowered her versus made her feel used and small. And once her subconscious was able to absorb that and believe it, all of a sudden those pains were no longer controlling her. And instead of attracting men into her life in situations where she always felt small and like people were trying to control her, instead, what happened is she went out, and if she met those kind of guys, she would just push them away. She would just distance herself. And she became more naturally attracted to men that were caring, that were kind, that were respectful, because her mind and her body accepted that. And she believed that that was something that she deserved to have in her life.
Wow. Wow. That's a really great explanation, Alan. Also, NLP, which is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, as we call it. So how does it work in the process of emotional restoration? What exactly it is, and if you can support this with an example of how it has helped any one of your clients, as you give this example.
Sure. So NLP, to simplify it, it was designed in the 70s and 80s by two individuals, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And what they did is they traveled around the world and they met the very best people in their field, whether that was sports or psychology or in fitness or in math or in science. And they interviewed all these people. And what they discovered is that people who operate at the highest levels have a certain way of thinking that's very different from the majority of other individuals in the world. This is just about thinking and getting results, right? what they discovered is that they could take their thinking processes, turn it into a communication, like a language. It's what we call a language pattern, which is very relatable to mathematics. And as a result, they were able to recreate the thinking patterns of these high-level people and utilize their skills into everyday life. So basically, think of it this way. A simplified term would be, imagine somebody's trying to find out how to cure their cold.
Mm-hmm.
They could either ask friends, or they can go to Google,
Yeah.
or they can use ChatGPT, right? Now, yeah, right. Now, granted, if they know how to use ChatGPT, if they just type in cure my cold, ChatGPT will just throw out something random.
Yep.
But if they learn to ask ChatGPT something very specific, like a good prompt, a very clear prompt, oftentimes ChatGPT can give a very well descriptive, detailed solution on how to solve that problem.
Right.
Well, NLP, that works the same way with us. You see, we're always talking to ourselves, Sana. You know this. I know this. Everybody knows this, right?
Yes.
But you tell me, what's the common challenge that we find when people are frustrated, upset, angry? How do they normally talk to themselves?
It's a kind of, just cursing ourselves, or a kind of hate towards ourselves. Oh, why did I do that? Why am I so dull? Or why does this happen with me only? Something like this.
100%. You're absolutely right. And guess what? If that's what we say to our brains actually give us an answer. Like when I used to be really overweight, I used to be incredibly overweight. I
Mhm.
used to say to myself, why am I so fat? Why is it so hard for me to lose weight? Why do I feel like a pig? Like I literally used to be so cruel to myself. And my brain used to say, well, because you have no discipline, because you're an idiot, because you're just not that bright, because you're lazy. It gave me the answers I was asking for. Now, NLP teaches us if you want a specific result, you must learn to ask specific questions that steer you towards that desired result. So I started learning how to ask myself questions like, well, how do I get in shape? Well, what's my first step to get in shape, to at least feel better in my body? What's the easiest step I can take now to start having more energy? What's something I can do quick to feel happier? Like, these sound like very basic questions, and most people would roll it over their head like, yeah, it's just, that sounds so basic. Well, it is, but it's designed that way because our conscious mind will always give us an answer. But if we don't control the command prompt, we're always going to get horrible answers. And this is where NLP really teaches us to be very careful of how we speak to ourselves, because long term, the things that we say to ourselves, real or not real, actually become our reality if we hear it and experience it in our bodies long enough.
Hmm. Wow, that's a lovely explanation. Once again, it's such a relevant example. Great, great, Alan. Also, uh, there is something very, very, it's one of the major reason behind, all these emotional blocks, self-limiting beliefs. So how can, first of all, we identify them and then overcome them as well?
Very good question. For the sake of this podcast, I'll keep it as simple as I can, with the addition of maybe leaving some ideas or resources that your viewers can go and find for themselves if they want to deep dive into the subject to help them further along. Okay. So when it comes to making a change, when it comes to even recognizing that there's something that's holding us back, limiting us, there's a very simple indicator. And the indicator is this: if any time a person is living their life and something, anything, triggers them in a negative way where their response is much bigger, much more negative than the present moment. That is a very clear indication that there's something from the past that is still controlling them that they need to let go of. Here's a quick example. I have a daughter, and I love my daughter. She's wonderful. There was a time when if she had looked at me, this goes back maybe 4 years ago. There was a time when she would come home from work and she would give me this particular look. And the look was not a smiley look. It wasn't a happy look. It was just a very straight-faced look. Now, it sounds very innocent. She comes home, she looks at me, she goes to her room. No big deal, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, when she would come home and give me that look, it instantly, within seconds, would trigger me to feel something extremely negative. And then my brain would start saying things like, is she mad at me? Is she being disrespectful? She didn't even say hi. Why is she looking at me like with dislike or disgust? Is she sharing her crappy day with me? Like, what is happening here? And you know what? I found out because I had to ask her. I said, hey, I call her kiddo. I said, kiddo, I need to know, like, when you come home and look at me like that, why do you look at me like that? Because it makes me actually really upset. And you know what she said? She said, Dad, I had no idea I was looking at you that way. I just came home and I'm just really tired from work. So in that moment, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm making stuff up in my head that's not even real. My kid is thinking something that I think she's not even thinking what I'm thinking. I'm making stuff up, which then made me realize, okay, wait, where is this coming from? Santa, it was the craziest thing. I did a technique using NLP to discover my own history. And I found out that when I was 3 years old, my dad used to come home from work. And if he had a stern look on his face, he was just angry. And it triggered me because it like my subconscious was triggered because it related that time of when I was 3 years old all the way up until I was 12 or 13 to my daughter on her face. And so what I had to do was realize, number one, it's not my daughter. It's my own stuff. And when I was able to realize that there was the separation, number two, I had to use a technique called emotional reframing to look back on that time in my past and to recreate a different meaning of what that meant for me. So the new meaning I was able to create regarding my father giving me that stern look was that he was just tired, hungry, overworked. It really didn't have much to do with me. How could it? I was 3 years old. And I got to tell you, the moment that my subconscious was able to accept that, my daughter can come home. She could be smiley. She could be upset. She could give me a stern face. She could give me a neutral face. It doesn't matter how she looks at me. I no longer feel that heavy, negative feeling of being upset or angry. That feeling is gone.
Wow. Wow. Oh, I think, this is how something as complex or profound like NLP can be explained, with examples from your own life journey, from those moments or situations when you actually, kind of had, to apply your own concepts in your own life. So really, really, thank you, Alan, for sharing this example again. Also, many people, they fear failure or judgment, and I think that's one of the major reasons why most people, they often go on the path of people pleasing. They just simply cannot say no to anything, And that is very, very challenging, difficult situation to manage, especially in high pressure environments like business, or even personal lives as well. So, how can NLP help shift these fears into confidence and action?
Very good question. What we've learned about people pleasing and about being afraid of rejection and being afraid of a no, oftentimes we make up feelings in our body regarding those experiences that are 10, 20, 30 times bigger than they actually need to be. I mean, I'm telling you something very obvious, Sana. You know this already, right? But the reason why, again, this is mainly towards my work and my personal experiences with myself, my family, my clients. What I've discovered is that many of us were, call it being mentally wired up, kind of like wiring up a computer. Oftentimes we were placed with a program inside of our heads, usually from parents or a guardian or someone we looked up to, which basically said that if you don't please your parents, if you don't please that authority figure in your life, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, from age 0 till 7 years old, our brains have very little conscious belief of self. We just soak in everything. We don't really know what's right or what's wrong. We don't know how to set boundaries at that age. So we take everything in. What we've learned from the work is that during those years, if something traumatic happens, and it doesn't even have to be traumatic in other people's standards, it just has to be traumatic inside ourselves. If it's something that was emotionally charged enough, positive or negative, it becomes something that we take in and that we use as a moderator or as a guide for other experiences in life. So, for example, to your point, which was beautiful, a lot of people go through this, having to build a business, taking rejection. That's hard for people.
Yeah.
When I first started building my business, I could not take a no. It scared me. It terrified me. It made me shiver to my bones. And I never understood why. Taking to NLP training, it taught me that the reason why I was so afraid of a no, the origin of where it all started, was that when I was young, when I was 7 years old, my dad, and again, I say my dad because he was a major influence in my life. He had a vacuum guy, this guy that was selling vacuums, come to our house. And the guy was really nice. And he did this whole presentation, this hour-long talk. Yeah. And he was actually he wasn't even pushy. Like, my mom liked him. I felt like comfortable around the guy. He was actually a nice guy. But my dad just kept saying, he's a crook. He's full of, you know what? He's just trying to take our money. He doesn't really care. This thing's probably garbage. Like, he had this whole list of beliefs about what a salesperson was. And being that young, I didn't know right from wrong, so I just believed him. Now, conscious brain forgets it. It's so long ago. But the subconscious brain records everything. And because I was so emotionally charged about how my father was communicating to that sales rep, when I got older, obviously in business, you got to do some selling. So when it would be time to close the deal, close the sale, I felt guilt. I felt shame. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm actually doing something good for people here. Like, I'm helping them with their fitness. I'm helping them with their nutrition. I'm helping people get younger, stronger, more physically vibrant. Why should I feel shame about this? And I found out is because the old belief system from my dad was still inside of me. But again, I would never have known that had I taken the training. I just would have thought, well, that's just the way it is. Like, Santa, how many people do you know will usually resort to some way of saying, "Oh, that's just how it is. That's how I've always been. That's all I've ever known." I mean, I'm sure you've heard that, right?
Yeah. Few times.
Yeah. Most of us grow up with some version of that. Well, after I'd realized that my belief system was not mine to begin with, but actually came from my dad's, which he accidentally passed on to me, I was then able to realize, wait a minute, okay, is this something that I want? No, I don't. I don't want to keep this belief because it's not serving me. And so what I did is I used a technique, which, by the way, if it's okay with you, I want to share where I got the technique from, the original technique. It came from a guy named Richard Bandler. Bandler is one of the creators of NLP. He has a book online, which is very inexpensive. It's not my book. I'm not making money. There's no affiliate link. Like, I really just want to share because it really helped me as a beginner. And it's just The Beginner's Guide to NLP by Richard Bandler. It was a small book, maybe 25 to 45 pages. It's very, very short. But he explained how to reverse negative emotions if you're doing it by yourself. It takes about 30 minutes, which I did. And after I did the technique, I could go back to the sales environment. I could go back to my clients. And when it was time to close the deal, close the sale, ask them to pay me for my service, that feeling of guilt went away. It wasn't there controlling me anymore. And that's where NLP ties into what we do, because that foundational ability of controlling our emotions, that is literally the ground floor to doing more advanced techniques like emotional freedom.
Yeah. Wow. Great, Allan. This was such a profound conversation with such a simple explanation with some great examples, to convey the message in an effective and better way for all the listeners to understand how exactly NLP works, what exactly is emotional freedom. So before we wrap up, Allan, one final question to you. Well, just want to start this journey. Are there any simple NLP or hypnosis techniques they can practice right away to begin transforming in their emotional health?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that we teach here, both from my NLP coaches and even for myself now as a trained practitioner, one of the first things that we teach all of our people is to create awareness. And awareness, really, at a very basic level, is just noticing when we're living life and something happens, when we get triggered, negatively triggered. The guy or the gal cuts you off on the road, or somebody accidentally, your kid spills milk on the floor, or somebody is late for the meeting. Those things and others can sometimes send people on a negative spiral, right? When those negative experiences happen, number one, do we show up feeling, upset or negative about the situation, but inequivalent to? Or do we show up to those events feeling extremely mad, extremely upset, extremely sad, or feeling guilty or depressed? Step number one, if ever there's an extreme negative emotion that shows up, that is a clear sign that there's something in life from our past that needs to be resolved. Step number two, in order to resolve that, we have to find out, well, what is it? Where is it? So to do that, we have to treat our brains like ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT gives you answers in real time. Ask the question, 5 to 10 seconds, you get the answer, right?
Yep.
With our subconscious, it's slower. Sometimes it's quick, but when you're first new to the experience, it comes slow. So what I usually tell people is learn to ask a specific question. Try not to make it so general, but be very detailed to the best of your ability. and expect your brain to give you an answer. But when you expect the brain to give you an answer, ask the question, have intention on your brain answering you, but then leave it alone. Like, don't even think about it. Just go back to your day. And oftentimes what happens is people will tell me, and it's happened to me as well, driving down the road and bam, the answer comes up. You're taking a shower or you're sitting at the table having coffee, bam, the answer comes up. It always comes up when we least expect it. And then number 3, when you get the answer, you simply have to ask yourself this question. Do I really want to see it this way? Or is there a positive turn, or is there something I'm missing from this? A question that I tend to ask myself is, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Now, the reason why I use that specific question is because it presupposes that there's something positive from that negative past experience that I am meant to discover. So if somebody's expecting, like if the brain is expecting to find something positive, it'll find it. But we have to ask it with the intention that our brains are going to do its job. And we have to make sure we ask the right question in order for it to give us a positive answer. If somebody does that many times, if they actually intend to use that, it's a very simple tool. But if they do it and they do it enough, I'm telling you, the answers start coming to you in ways that the brain sometimes had never done before. And when they do that repeatedly, that is when life really starts to get better. Because like any skill, that becomes the habit. And when it becomes the habit, somebody's life can be like mine, where they were going down the pits to nothing, to where now I run 3 companies. I've got a wonderful family, a great relationship with my daughter. And every single day I'm helping someone transform their life. Like this is completely different from who I was 20 years ago. And anybody can have that change for themselves as well.
Definitely. And you have come such a long way. And, I think our listeners can get that, I'm getting that feeling of how much you delved deep into this concept. And now you are helping others as well with all the wisdom, all the knowledge from the concept and wisdom from your own life experiences. Together you are just beautifully marrying both the worlds and helping people out there. So thank you so much, Allan, for helping us with your incredible journey and the transformative power of emotional freedom through NLP and hypnosis. So finally, if our listeners, they wish to connect with you and explore more about your work around NLP, how they can do that?
They can just go to my website, www.emotionalenlightenmentconsulting.net, N-E-T. And over there's a bunch of free resources, a lot of detail on our background, how we operate. And there's a little chat section there for Q&A if someone would like to ask the questions. I'm always happy to answer and to help however I can.
Great. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners. And Allan, once again, thank you. Thank you so much for teaching us how to take control of our emotions. It's isn't just about overcoming hard, roadblocks or obstacles. It's about unlocking our true potential and living the life we all deserve. So thank you.
Totally agree with you, Sana. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, don't hesitate to connect with Allan to learn more about his work and the tools, the resources, the wisdom he offers. You can refer to the show notes along with the episode. And as always, please subscribe, leave us a review, let us know how we are doing, and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. Let's keep building a mindful and empowered community together. Until next time, this is Sana reminding you to live with intention and also live mindfully. Thank you.
Thank you.